enjoy your fireball and sweet tea because that sounds amazing. I'm going to jump into the intros while more people join in. So thank you all so much for being here tonight. Before we jump into introductions of our panel, I want to thank Harlequin for organizing this virtual cocktail hour with Bookstore Romance Day. Just this past year, Harlequin celebrated 70 years of publishing romance with offices in countries all around the world. For this anniversary, a study Harlequin conducted with thousands of readers reaffirmed what the company always believed, that Harlequin romance novels make readers feel uplifted, inspired, and empowered. They call it that Harlequin feeling. Harlequin is also an innovator of the series romance model. For anyone who doesn't know, Harlequin series is made up of 12 romance lines that range from offering historical romance and mystery suspense to contemporary and inspirational romance. 66 new novels are published each month, and readers can even subscribe to receive their favorite lines delivered directly to their homes and e-readers. Meanwhile, HQN Books has redefined romance by publishing the best in mainstream bestseller romance by the finest authors in the field, from rising stars to romance royalty. In 2019, HQN Books placed over 40 titles on bestseller lists, demonstrating that it offers something for every romance fan across all formats. And Karina Adores, the latest addition to Harlequin's romance offerings, launched this past June. Karina Adores is the first romance line from a major publishing house to offer category-style romances exclusively featuring main characters from LGBTQ+ communities finding their happily ever afters. Karina Adores novels are filled with heartwarming scenes of characters getting to know each other over witty banter, falling in love, and overcoming central conflicts that aren't focused on the main characters' identities. Please note that Harlequin is doing a gift with purchase opportunity. I believe Sam will put a link in the chat. Anyone who purchases the latest novel from one of the Harlequin authors participating in panels today will receive a free ebook from Harlequin through the link in the chat. So definitely check that out. So let's start with panelist introductions. But also first, hello, hi, I'm Andrea Martucci. I'm the host of the Shelf Love podcast. It's a place where I have thought-provoking, critical discussions about romance novels. On each episode, I'm joined by a guest or guests to discuss identity, relationships, and how the modern romance genre continues to evolve. And the central thesis of Shelf Love is that romance is a genre that deserves dignity and respect. And it's a text that celebrates and centers marginalized voices, so many romance novels are individually complex, intersectional works of art. It's a podcast that lovingly digs beneath the surface of the romance genre into the desires of readers and writers, and I hope you take a listen if you haven't already. So anyways, given my interest in these topics, I am thrilled to be here tonight with three amazing romance authors. So pleased to be moderating this panel. We have Jayci Lee, Elio Winters, and Audrey Carlan. So let's get to know our panelists. We will start with Jayci Lee. Jayci took the romance reading world by storm with her debut novel, Temporary Wife Temptation. With a previous career as a defense litigator, Jayci never stopped her dream of romance publication, and by the end of 2020, she'll already have 4 published novels under her belt. Most recently, her novel, A Sweet Mess, was optioned for a movie by actor Daniel Day Kim. So Jayci, thanks for being here. Amazing.
Thank you.
All right, so to break the ice, what is your all-time favorite comfort romance read and why?
Okay, these were so specific, right? It has to be my all-time and comfort romance read. So I'm gonna say Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice?
Yes. It's Jane Austen, I think, in my opinion, in her time, was a rom-com author. And the way she writes, her voice, there's a whimsy to it and a sharp wit to it that never gets old. So whenever I just feel like I'm burnt out and I'm too anxious to pick up a new book, I turn to Pride and Prejudice, and she inspires me every time I read it. And hello, Mr. Darcy. So, is there anything more to say? You know, he is an amazing hero, and I think so many of our current romance novels depict him in one way or another, and I just adore him. And Elizabeth Bennet is possibly my favorite heroine of all time.
She is pretty cool, and who doesn't love being like the one person in the world to melt this really cantankerous, broody guy, right?
Oh yeah, she's up for it. Totally up for it.
So I'm pleased now to introduce Elio Winters. Rita Award-winning author Elia Winters writes geeky, kinky, cozy, erotic, and contemporary romances. Her latest novel, Hairpin Curves, available now from the Karina Adores romance line, was featured on OprahMag.com's list of LGBTQ books that are changing the literary landscape of 2020. So, Elia, different question for you. What is your auto-buy trigger, i.e. a trope, character, archetype, etc.?
Okay, so I am just such a one-click whore on Twitter. As people are promoting their books, I'm like all about the things that get me. I love fake relationship. I love only one bed. I love banter. Like if somebody is talking about intense banter in a book and wittiness, I'm all about that. The grumpy guy is actually a real softie. I mean, that's just, who doesn't love that? And if somebody writes that it's got really hot sex, or like this book is filthy, I'm gonna buy that. Like that's an auto buy. Like click, my TBR is a terrifying monstrosity. And I think every so often my Kindle is gonna be like, are you sure? But it never does, and so I just keep buying.
Oh. I raise your hand if you also love only one bed. Just
what does that mean?
Only.
I'm lost. I have no idea.
You don't know what only one bed is? Oh my gosh, we're gonna have. Okay, it's like there's a snowstorm and they check into a hotel and there's only one bed and they have to share it, and oh no.
I literally wrote that in Hairpin Curves.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I can't, there it is, chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
And now Audrey Carlan, who didn't know the name of the only one bed trope prior to this moment. Audrey Carlan is a #1 New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestselling author of over 40 novels, including the worldwide phenomenon Calendar Girl serial, and her books have been translated into more than 30 languages across the globe. Audrey lives in the California Valley with her 2 children and the love of her life. Audrey, if you could be any character from a romance novel, who would you be and why?
I am a huge Kristen Ashley fan. She's like my favorite. I've met her many times and I just feel like I need to bow down to her. But she writes books that really speak to me and to my soul. And I would have to say, it's not even my favorite book, but the character India Savage in Rock Chick is probably my favorite because she's like a wild redhead. She's got curves. She's into rock music. She gets her own alpha commando hero. And she works at a bookstore and owns a bookstore and hires all her friends. So it's like my dream job.
Oh my God.
If I was writing books, I would be in a bookstore selling books. So I really enjoy that. And she always gets up to crazy shenanigans, which make you excited. And I think life should be about living.
Life should be about living. Mm-hmm. That's a good tagline.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So I have a few questions to get the conversation going. But if you guys have questions for the panelists, please add it to the chat. I'll try to keep up. But since it's cocktail hour, let's start with some cocktail hour inspired questions. So Elia, what would Megan and Scarlett from Hairpin Curves order to drink at cocktail hour and why?
All right, so Scarlett would definitely order something fruity and flavorful that has like a whole bunch of garnishes in it, like multiple cherries and also some sort of other fruit on this like little cocktail swizzle stick. And Megan is much more of a straightforward girl. I think she's more of a gin and tonic girl. But I think she would also like look for what the special is and be willing to like try something a little bit new if it seemed appealing.
Okay, like bartender's choice, like.
Yeah, like I don't think she'd be like, just make me whatever, but I think she would listen to what they were advertising as a special and go with that.
Okay, now because it's a road trip, who would the DD be, the designated driver?
It would definitely be Megan.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it would only be Megan for the first half of the road trip. And then I think Scarlett would take over that role in order to encourage Megan to let her hair down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Proverbially.
Love it. Okay, I lost my, oh, here we go. Audrey, what about Suda K and Camden from What the Heart Wants? What would they each order to drink at cocktail hour?
Suda K would absolutely say, give me a shot of tequila and surprise me. She's definitely the type of girl that wants to, you know, let her hair down, be wild, and enjoy something new from life that somebody else offers. Cam would be beer, whiskey. You know, most of my guys are very straightforward alpha dudes that, you know, either like the normal every day or they like it top notch, one of the two. There's never really an in-between with my men.
And I guess what the setting, is it like a small town? Can they walk home? Do they need a designated driver? Yeah. I feel like I have to be very responsible here.
Once Camden has a brother who owns a pub, so they own Bryant Brews, and they would be hanging out there for sure. And they'd order, you know, wings and fries and everything else in between, and party all night till the place went down.
Oh, awesome!
They wouldn't stop.
All right, so Jayci, in Secret Crush Seduction, what would Michael and Adelaide order for cocktail hour? And also maybe set the scene. What kind of bar would they be in? Where are they?
So Adelaide's cousin Colin owns several clubs in Los Angeles. So she would probably go hang out there because she loves to dance. And she's an amateur mixologist herself. So she would pick the most complicated, whatever infused, muddled with what, you know, and has to be some kind of unexpected savory hit to it, you know, rosemary, jalapeno, something. So she would go for the most exotic sounding drink. And as for Michael, I think he would order something just cool and laid back like him, vodka on the rocks. So he could sort of sip it, but it's not watered down.
Right, very, very classic, very clean.
Yes, he's just that kind of guy. Can't you tell? Gosh, I am so obsessed with this model. He's so cute.
That cover is gorgeous.
I stare at it all the time. Seriously, I'm like, Michael.
Where do they find these people? We need to find out. Like, I mean, I see modeling agencies.
I'm actually friends with, on Instagram, with the model on Temporary Wife Temptation. So yeah, we found each other. Pretty exciting.
I got added by a couple of my cover models for previous books, and at first I'm like, who are you? And then I realized who they were, and I'm like quietly fangirling out. Like, I know who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there he is. His name's Daniel.
Oh.
Yeah. I have lots of Daniels in my life right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of. Okay, well now we're gonna get into the heavy hitter questions. So I hope you've had enough to drink. I was joking on Twitter. Now you guys have to spill your deepest, darkest secrets, which I hope you were prepared for. Okay, so we're gonna start with Audrey on this one. If someone was writing an essay about your body of work, what theme do you think they'd mention first that reoccurs in your novels? So, like, why do you think, I mean, along with that, why do you think you're fascinated by that theme and keep coming back to it? And what are the different ways that you've explored it, and maybe how that has that theme evolved over the course of your 40 plus novels?
I'd have to say, you know, there's two things that I'm really focused on and really passionate about. One is having my books be erotic, and that is because I believe love is erotic. I don't believe that it should be watered down. I appreciate making a reader feel that intense, heart-pounding experience right along with my characters. I make sure to write typically in first person so they experience everything with them, whether it's past tense or present. And I focus a lot of attention on the connection of the characters and the sisterhood, and making sure that the women in my books are like women I know. They're your sister, they're your mom, they're your best friend, you know, they're your cousin. You can relate to them. And relatable women, I think, are really important nowadays. We need to lift each other up. We need to always, you know, fight for each other. And in my books, I do a lot of having very important soul sisters. I talk about soul sisters a lot. I talk about the connection of women together, whether they're best friends, they're actual sisters. This next 2 years, I'm doing like an 8-person foster sister series, as well as in What the Heart Wants that just came out. There's a sister, and it's, you know, 2 sisters trying to deal with their grief and dealing with themselves being separated from their mother, and reading the letters that she sent them from her grave that she held for them while she was sick. And it's all about them finding themselves. So I think that a true book for me is, if you're going to read something of mine, very likely is going to have very strong female relationships. It's going to be extremely erotic. That's kind of something that I'm highly known for. And it's not gross. It's not, I don't do kinky. I'm not good at it, so I don't do it. You know, but I like reading it. I write the sex you're gonna have in your own home, but really freaking hot. So that's something I try to express. I've been with my husband 23 years, and I feel like, you know, I kind of am an expert in that, in how to stay married and love the one you're with, and have a strong relationship. And I want to teach that to my readers, as well as share in that sisterhood of friendship.
Awesome, thank you. Well, so now we're going to talk to Elia, Elia, I know you gave us a little preview of what theme you think really the most.
So we like got a sense of what kind of questions are going to be asked, and I had to ask him, like, how G-rated is this panel? Because the thing that comes up in all my books is sex toys. Like, all my books, I believe, have sex toys in them, and in part because I love writing them, and I want to like normalize that. And I think that whether people have picked up on it or not, that's definitely a trend. Also, I define my genre in part as cozy erotic, because I write really high heat erotic romance and steamy contemporary. And my first book was BDSM erotic romance. But I like to say I'm not writing the crying in basements kind of kinky books. Like, my books are, like, I want them to be really hot and also make you feel good. So they tend to have they're lighter on angst. And I want them to be books that people will know that I will take care of them emotionally in the book. And I think that's part of, like, overall the draw of romance, knowing that we're going to come out of it with a happily ever after. And I want that while also having just really hot sex in these books. So I think those are probably the most common recurring elements of mine.
And so
thank you, Kelly, for I'm just catching up on the chat. I'll take a look at that.
Kelly loves sex toys. And and Elia, I saw your like sex toys that you were giving away, and those were just the ones you were giving away?
They were. That was my collection before I culled it. Once a year I do a culling. I realized, and this was not on purpose, that this is the sack of the ones that I am rehoming to friends of mine. It's like hanging on the kitchen chair. But I do have I'm a reviewer. So I have a lot of.
Never been used?
No, these are being rehomed to friends because they are used, but they are cleaned, and I have a UV sterilizer, but I'm definitely like not rehoming these to strangers. I have some really close friendships that when you can, yeah, that's just what I'll say.
Well, so Elia, I'm curious, speaking of kink, you know, my understanding is like when kink is introduced in romance specifically, like so when kink is done what we hope is like kind of like a positive, healthy way, there's a lot of communication. There's also a lot of like vulnerability and trust in kind of exploring, you know, sex generally, but like especially like pushing the boundaries of like kind of I guess going a little bit farther than like what most people are like, this is normal, right? And which there is no normal, but like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's such a wide range in the term of even just using the term kink. Like everything as light as people who might like tie a partner to the bedpost with a silk scarf, but wouldn't define themselves as kinky. And I think that we get to define our own sexuality however we want to. And I think there's a wide range of kink, and that somebody who's into one thing doesn't necessarily get into something else. And the great diversity of interests is also something that I find really interesting.
mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, so Jayci, same question. What is if somebody was writing an essay about your body of work, your romance novels, what theme do you think they'd mention first that reoccurs?
Okay, so far I only have 2 books out. I debuted this February. So not quite a body of work, but I do have the rest of the Heirs of Hansel series coming out. So focusing on that, I write about main characters who are Korean American to show the world that Korean Americans are Americans too. We laugh, love, and cry like all the other Americans, if that's such a thing. I want to normalize Korean Americans as Americans. So it's important for me to write about heart-wrenching, funny, passionate romance and have people enjoy it, escape a little, and love it. It's not about teaching them about this culture and that, but it's about sharing reality of what Asian couples are like, which is very similar to everyone else with little quirks here and there. And apparently, I had no idea, but I write steamy, slow burn romance. So that seems to be a repeating theme, especially in the Heirs of Hansel series that are all coming out this year. People have been very positive about that, and I do like to make them suffer a little, and I do love to play with sexual tension. I think I would say that sexual tension, like heightened focused sexual tension, is a theme in my book where the desire and the sensuality of their feelings takes focus for a long time before they actually consummate their desire. So I think in the future, you could expect the same. Because I'm such a new author, there's, not something I could look back to, but looking forward, I will continue to write about Korean American characters. I will continue to write books that have a lot of sexual tension and sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. And so there was actually, I think you kind of answered part of this question already. Lee Lynn Reads on Twitter asked some questions ahead of time, and they said, seeing Asian main characters in romance novels was just absolutely amazing for me, and I felt so seen. So why do you feel like this was important to do in your novels? And then I think you already answered this. How many more Own Voices romance novels do you plan on writing? Because she plans to read them all.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy that she felt the connection, the that she felt seen by seeing people who look like her on the covers of my romance. And I think why I write Korean American romance is because there aren't many of them. There aren't enough of them. And I want to do my part to raise awareness. Representation matters. And awareness of the differences and the similarities in each other's culture matters. And that's why I write Asian American couples in my book. And as for her question about how many more I'm going to write, it's like, I don't know. I hope to be, you know, nice old lady writing hot, steamy romances. And I will continue to write about Korean American romance because there just aren't enough of them. If right now, if I could be the voice that shares that, if I could give my readers the hope and the connection they feel to show them that, yes, Asian Americans can be main characters. Yes, Asian American men are super sexy. I will be doing my part.
I mean, sorry, just proof right there. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That was a beautiful answer.
Thank you.
So I just realized there was like a separate section for questions because I was just looking in the chat. Ooh, I know how Zoom works. So we've got some questions. So from Jen asking Audrey, what is your favorite heroine that you have ever written and why?
That's so hard. I think everybody, if you even have two, you're like, you know, but
You must choose.
I have a lot. I would say, I think I love Sudake. There's my book. I guess I didn't show you guys. And What the Heart Wants. Sudake, and I'm gonna make my assistant who's watching cry because I delved deep and I wrote about Native Americans, and I'm obviously not Native American. I'm pretty glow-in-the-dark Irish and Italian, but she is, and her mother's name was Sudake, and I became fascinated over the years with her mother's history and her growing up and, you know, having, you know, reservations and that whole era, and that is still happening today, and it's not talked about enough, and it's something that I did a lot of research on. So I think that having a very wanderlust driven character who has traveled the world, who has to find a way to come to a place where she can set roots down and figure out who she really is and find herself, and in doing so, you know, rebuild that connection with her sister that she left behind, rebuild that connection with the man she left behind. And there's a lot of moving pieces. So I think that her story was probably the most dear to my heart at this moment in time. I'm still in that world, so that always helps. But my fans for sure would say Mia from Calendar Girl, because it was a very long series and celebrated, and she's pretty special, that one. A little motorcycle riding, you know, hot girl who's promiscuous and doesn't care. So I would have to say for now Sudake, but the fans would probably say Mia.
Awesome. And so Essie wants to know, what genres do you want to write at some point in your careers? So this is for anybody.
I get really excited when asked that question, because I have a special side project that I'm working on that's paranormal romance or urban fantasy. And I am writing to, again, represent Asian Americans, and the paranormal and the shifting aspect comes from ancient Korean folklore. So I'm really excited. It's a fox spirit. Can I like tell everybody? It's super cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I do that too. I would probably try to, I've been stretching my, you know, writing wings doing women's fiction, but I'm scared of paranormal. I love it and I love fantasy, but I find it to be the world building so intense. And I'm a pantser. I don't plot. So I channel write, and it's one of those things, like half the time my beta team, I have like 6 betas, I can't remember characters' names sometimes. I can't remember what they wrote, what color their eyes are. So I'm always having to, my assistant has to keep a character Bible open just for a normal story. So just having that, I'm like, a world? I don't know. That would be something else. I think I'd want to write it with someone else if I was going to do it.
The project I'm currently doing research on is for recent historical FF romance. And I'm doing a World War II series, FF series. And right now it might all be centered around the Army Service Corps and the Signal Corps specifically. So my first book is a telegraph operator and a pigeoneer. And I'm looking at cryptographers. I'm looking at women who did the motor pool. I've been reading like just nonstop about World War II, especially the intersection of women and of queer identities. And I never thought I would be doing historical, but I'm really excited about that.
That sounds amazing. I immediately thought of, what was that Canadian TV show about? I feel like there's like a Canadian TV show about women working in World War II, like
Maisel or Mabel, Marvelous Mabel or something like that.
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
That's not, I've seen that. I'll have to find the thing for you, but there is a queer relationship in that. I'll send it to you.
Please.
Okay, so yes.
Okay, Elia, you write female, male, or what is your genre?
I write everything. So I've written MF, I've written MM. Hairpin Curves is FF, and this trilogy, the series will be FF.
That's awesome.
And I've also, the Comes in Threes series is polyamorous. So MMF in general.
I'm excited. I've actually never read a female. I've read a lot of male. Obviously, I love, that genre has been great and super sexy, but I'm excited to read it. I'll have to go buy it today, as you all said. Because I've never read one, so I'm really excited about it.
So that was actually my next question. So this is kind of two people asked. Leigh Kramer asked, wondering if Elia will be writing any more in the Comes in Three series. And then Jen asked if you were going to write another non-monogamous or polyamorous series.
Thank you. So it's not on the immediate horizon. I wouldn't rule it out. I will say that those books were, especially Three-Way Split, which I was really honored to win the Rita for, took me years, and I am not a person who takes years to write a book. Figuring out when you go from a couple to a triad, it isn't just 2 relationships, like this person with that one and that one with that. It becomes 6, because you have each pairing and then the group all together. And the complexity of that was intense. So I feel really good about the series, and I'm really happy with the books. And I would love to write it again, and not right away. But I wouldn't rule it out for the future. I need a little break, but to do like really intense World War II pigeoneering research. But I would definitely consider it in the future. I'm polyam, and it's really important to me to see more beyond what's considered reverse harem in the genre.
Amazing. I will plug, so Jen has a podcast called Monogamish about consensual non-monogamy. So right up Jen's alley, which is definitely why she was asking. Hi, Jen. So Mary Lynn Nielsen is wondering, what's a romance someone else wrote that you wish you had written, and why does it stand out for you that way? So if I was gonna send it over to somebody, but this one might actually require some thought. Does anybody have something handy?
A book you wish you wrote?
Yes, basically a book somebody else wrote that you wish you had written.
I would say Sylvia Day's Crossfire series. I think that the heat level in her books is way up here, and I always try to get to that point without being raunchy. You know, I want it to be erotic and loving and graphic, and make you feel something, but not be, you know, I have a very fine line. I don't want to ever be called, you know, someone who writes porn. That really angers me. Erotica versus erotic romance are very different. One is about the sexual exploration and getting off. The other is about the romantic relationship and falling in love. So I would have to say that Crossfire series, wicked hot, but the love is so deep and angsty and tense, and I love it. I recommend it to everybody.
Jayci or Elia, do either of you have a book you wish you'd written?
I have one. I mean, I have this love-hate relationship with the book because I just love it so much, and I hate that I didn't write it. It's called The Hating Game. Everyone, I think, so many people have read it and loved it, and I was just blown away by the humor in it and the flow. It just jive with who I am and my sense of humor, and I just really wished I wrote a book like that. I'm working on it though.
You'll get there. You've only written 4 books or 4 books, so, you know, give it time. Soon somebody will be on a panel like this and somebody will be like, what book do you wish you had written? And it'll be yours.
For me, I would probably say one of my all-time favorites is A Week to Be Wicked by Tessa Dare, which is like nerdy scientist heroine, and there's fake relationship, only one bed. It's a road trip, but it's like historical, so, you know, carriage trip. And there's great banter, and the sex is super hot, and I just love it and wish that, I don't know if I wish I'd written it or just want to like immerse myself in that book just eternally. I just love it. I just love it.
So I'm trying to, I think we have time for one more question. So Kelly Reynolds asks, what story are you dying to tell? Question for everybody.
I'm really excited about writing about this pigeoneer.
I'm really excited about her writing about the pigeoneer.
And you guys all know that I'm super excited at writing about the fox spirit. So I already got like, can't wait to share that story.
Yeah,
can't wait to finish writing it.
Sorry, the fox spirit, can you say more about that?
It's about, I created a different world. It's based on a Korean folklore, but I filled in so many details. I created a world called the Unreal, and there are these characters in it, and all of them are from Korean folklore that I'm going to be introducing into the book. And the heroine is a fox spirit who came to the US in 1900-ish, and she's been living here for over 100 years, learning the culture, learning the language, and trying not to stick out like a paranormal figure. So yes, it's about her old enemy coming back for her and her figuring out how to defeat that enemy who seems undefeatable. So.
I'm excited. So I think we're out of time, but this was a fantastic conversation. I want to thank you all. Thank you, Jayci, Elia, and Audrey for sharing your time with us all tonight. And thank you for everybody who joined us and submitted questions. By the way, there's recommendations in the chat, and somebody came up with Cable Girls is the show I think I was thinking of. I'm going to have to check that on IMDb after this. but I'm pretty sure that was it. And, but yeah, so thanks for our awesome attendees. Thank you to Bookstore Romance Day for creating this event. I think Billy just put a note in the chat, Billy who runs Bookstore Romance Day. Don't forget to visit bookstoreromanceday.org to support your local indie bookstore. My local indie bookstore, Copper Dog Books in Beverly, Massachusetts, is one of the participating bookstores, and we've been collaborating on a giveaway in discounted romance novels and sort of like a curated collection. So links are on my website, shelflovepodcast.com, or follow me on social media. I'm talking about that a lot this week if you want more information on that. And of course, go to bookstoreromanceday.org for all local bookstores. See if you can find one nearby you that you can support. Don't forget to find Jayci, Audrey, and Elia online to stay up to date with their new books. Plus, follow Book Clubbish and Harlequin on social media. And don't forget about the gift with purchase opportunity. There's a link in the chat, I believe. But I think that's it. Thank you, guys. I think we just rounded out Bookstore Romance Day.
Oh, wow.
Okay, good. It was fun. I really
Thanks so much.
And now I have some new authors to check out.
Oh,
Yes, and now I get to upgrade from my iced coffee to a real cocktail.
add some Baileys to that.
Totally. All right, well, stay cool, everybody, and have a lovely evening or afternoon if you're on the West Coast.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch.
Bye.
Bye.